Hi, my name is Jim Sharp, and I grew up not too far from Tusayan, or maybe I should say not too far from Tusayan in northern Arizona terms. I first came here when I was 11. And frankly, I was a lot more interested in Bedrock City and Valley than I was in Tusayan, or for that matter, the Canyon. Maybe it's because I've been told that I have a passing resemblance to Fred Flintstone. The other day I came to Tusayan with something other than old cartoons in mind. I wanted to talk about incorporation and whether or not Tusayan should become an official town. There was even an election here back in 2008. It was defeated, but the folks who want to see Tusayan become a town are back, seeing if they can convince people that now is the right time. I wanted to find out what changed in the last year and a half that would make people who didn't vote for it the last time around to vote for it now. Problem is, it seemed that nobody who's pushing incorporation wanted to talk to me about it. Maybe it's because as I rolled into Tusayan, I was one big Fred Flintstone-looking lawbreaker. First place I stopped was the Texaco station in Food Mart, where I talked to a very friendly guy by the name of Jim Orr. He's against incorporation.
It's a bad idea, the layer of government. You're adding another layer of government to benefit people, which you're not going to benefit if you're raising their cost of living by new taxes.
That's not what the folks behind incorporation say. I visited their website. And you know everything on the internet's true. They say that if incorporation happens, we'll get more stores in Tusayan and lower prices.
It's a guise. It's not for real. They're talking about opening a Walgreens and Albertsons, and you'll hear this in their newspaper and stuff. And there's no company that would, in their right mind, invest that kind of money in this area.
They also have a newspaper? Sure enough, there it is, the Western Times. We'll talk more about that in a bit, but first, back on their website, they talk all about housing. That's a big issue here for people who work in Tusayan. So that's going to be a good thing, right, Jim?
It's not for real. If they would be up and open about it, the Halversons, who do have interests here, and a company here, several actually, would just go together now and build housing and do what they are saying. They could do it without the incorporation at all, but that's not what they're interested in.
So what exactly are they interested in? I thought I'd ask someone who works for the Halversons. If you grew up in northern Arizona like I did, you know the name Halverson. Funny thing though, I've never met any of them. Maybe that's because they live in a faraway land known as Washington. Mr. Halverson's famous for owning Papillon Airways, so I thought I'd go talk to Al Montoya at the airport. Not only does he work for Mr. Halverson, he's an officer on the campaign committee that's pushing for incorporation. Al? Al Montoya? Mm-hmm. Hey, I was wondering if you would mind talking to us a little bit about incorporation. We're doing a little documentary up here. The reason you're looking at a blank screen right now is because Al Montoya told me in an email that I couldn't use any of the footage I shot. He did tell me, though, that he couldn't talk about incorporation at the time because of the lawsuits that have been filed, and anything that has to do with incorporation has to go through the attorneys. But Al's been talking a lot about incorporation, even in commercials.
My dream?
Yep, that's Al, all right. Appearing in a video featured on the Pro Incorporation website, and you know everything on the internet's true. In fact, Al is a big face on the website. Sorry, Al. I didn't mean to say you have a big face.
So there's more jobs, more choices to buy things at lower prices.
Tusayan can do better.
We just need to believe in ourselves.
All right, there's believing in yourself. And then there's believing in what other people tell you. So why do the companies pushing incorporation keep telling people that they'll build them houses after incorporation when many people wonder why they haven't built them yet?
They could do right now on the Colson property. They've got 160 acres sitting out there, and nothing's been done there. They've sat on that property now for, 6-7 years?
Well, why do you think they've done that? Why have they sat on it?
They don't want to put the money into it. I built housing here. I've got 12 apartments I built. I've got 36 dorm rooms I built right here in Tusayan. I know what it costs to build in Tusayan. It's not cheap. There's no financial gain in housing.
That's Ann Wren. She manages the Canyon Plaza Resort, used to be called the Quality Inn, and she's asking a lot of questions that it seems most people aren't.
Who's going to build it? Who's going to pay for it? Who's going to get the housing? What's going to be the requirements for them to get the housing? If they want to sell it later on, who are they going to be able to sell it to? If there's going to be some kind of limitations on this, it's going to be their property. Are they going to give the property along with the house? I don't think so. I think it's going to be the same situation it is right now.
Okay, remember their website? Oh, hi, Al. Well, on the housing page, they show you all sorts of examples of the homes they supposedly will build here. And hey, listen, I grew up in a trailer court, so nothing against them, but these are mobile homes that you usually park on a lot that you don't own. So really, what's changing?
In that little rag newspaper that they send out, they talk about housing. They're showing housing in Italy, these beautiful little townhouses, giving you the impression that these are the houses that they're going to build here. I don't see how.
That's Lydia Martinez. She's been here for 18 years, and she brings up something very important. Their newspaper. Let's take a look inside this fine piece of unbiased journalism. There's an article that talks about the housing in Italy that Lydia mentioned, and if you look close, there's a woman named Clay Ann Cook who talks about how she was a doubting Thomas about housing in Tusayan until she went to Italy. Now, apparently, she's convinced. Now, take a look at these pictures. They're from when she acted as a poll observer during the 2008 election. She's stepping outside, and she did so several times to talk to one of the developers that was pushing for incorporation back then and is pushing for it again. Oh, and she works for a business owner who wants Tusayan Incorporated. Lydia sees through all this. She just wishes they'd do a better job with the newspaper.
What got me this last time was the question of the week was, where do your tax dollars go in Tusayan? One person wrote that they probably go into the Grand Canyon National Park. Hello. And they quoted her.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be taking an ad out in that paper anytime soon. Now, we introduced you to the Helicopter and Halversons, but there's another family of business owners in Tusayan who don't live there who are pushing for incorporation.
The Italians.
I hear about the Italians.
An Italian family, I don't like referring to them as the Italians, everybody does, but I say that simply because I don't know their names.
Ah, yes, the Italians. I do know their name, Percassi, and I thought the Halversons lived far away. Here's where they hail from. And here's the Percassi brothers. Yep, the same guys chatting with Clay Ann Cook on election day 2008.
I hear about the Italians that the last election that they took a lot of local residents to Italy, first class accommodations, first class flights, first class. Wow. But I don't see any Italians living here with us.
There has to be some Italians living in Tusayan. I mean, who does all the cooking at Spaghetti Western? And while we're on the subject of Spaghetti Western, guess who supposedly lives in one of the apartments upstairs? Cecily Maniaci. She's the chairperson of the Pro-Incorporation Committee, only she was nowhere to be found the day I was in Tusayan. Maybe that's because she has a $1.2 million home in Paradise Valley. Does anybody who's pushing for incorporation actually live in Tusayan? Yeah, sorry, Al. Oh, Greg Bryan. He was chairman of the Political Action Committee in 2008 when incorporation failed. But here's his email telling me I couldn't use anything that I videotaped of him either. I did talk to Brent Koch over at the IMAX Theater. He was nice, but said he didn't want to be videotaped, and that guy's big. I mean, let me just say I wouldn't want to be a Japanese tourist sitting behind him in his theater. Big enough, I didn't even try videotaping him. Guy can get a complex this way.
This town is not pushing for it. It's being pushed by outside interest. And those outside interests will never live here. They will never have to live with what they have created.
This is not the first time they've tried to incorporate Tusayan. Why do you think they'll come back again to do this?
I honestly don't know why they would keep trying so frequently. I'm not sure what their goal is, what they're trying to pull or achieve, or
Feel like something's up though?
definitely something's up. Why would you spend so much money so soon after you've been told no, but thank you?
So it's really for them to build their golf course, for them to build their motels, and they can be part owners of the Tusayan community.
In your opinion, this has nothing to do with housing?
It has nothing to do with housing. Absolutely nothing to do with housing.
Anren's dog Jester has an amazing trick. He can open a restaurant creamer and drink it all up.
Oh my gosh.
Which kind of reminds me of the folks who don't live in Tusayan but want to change its future. They're willing to rip it open with their teeth just to get it every last drop.